أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس. The month of Ramazan is that in which was revealed the Qur'an, a guidance for the people. Qur'an 2:185. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, dear sisters. I just recited Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 185 in front of you. Dear sisters, it's a long verse with many phrases, but my focus this morning will be on the first and second part of the verse I just recited. This part explicitly tells us about Ramadan, just to get us into a gear to make the most of this month. Dear sisters, fasting is an act of gratitude. Gratitude to Allah for granting us with the greatest gift that could be ever given to mankind, as the fulfillment of the dua of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. So let's analyze this verse first. The purpose of ayah is the first word, the subject matter, which is the month of Ramazan. This is the most powerful verse in the Quran that links Ramazan to Quran, dear sisters. The only verse where Allah mentions the month of Ramazan by its name. No other month has been mentioned by its name in the whole Quran. Allah exalts it by saying Shahrul Ramazan, and then Allah does not say that the month of Ramazan is the month of fasting. No, Allah links it with something else. Allazi unzila fihi al-Qur'an. So Quran tells us that the month of Ramadan has the more of a link with Quran than with Siyam. Allah decided to speak to humanity one last time, the final conversation. It's the final conversation from Allah that should be recited over and over again in this month, which means this is the month that connects to Quran. Dear sisters, Quran as opposed to Al-Kitab, which means book, whereas Quran means recital, something which is read out loud. Another important thing, sisters, that we know that Quran is sitting in our shelves, in homes, in apps. It's easily accessible, right? It can be memorized. Isn't it a privilege to have? Do you know where it came from? It came from a long distance, dear sisters. Ibn Abbas tells us that Allah revealed Quran from Lawh Mahfuz, which is the original preserved tablet with Allah. Allah sent that copy of Quran down to the lower heavens in the month of Ramazan. The whole Quran physically came down to the lower heavens, and Ibn Abbas tells us Allah housed it in an abode, the chamber called Baytul Izzah, the house of honor, the house of glory. Then in the month of Ramazan, the day after Laylatul Qadr, the next morning, according to the most of the scholars, Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam came down to Prophet ﷺ in cave Hira and said, Iqra. So the whole story of Iqra actually takes place in the month of Ramazan. Both Musaf and Tilawa begin in the month of Ramazan, right? So this is my, right now we are talking about the month of Ramadan, as opposed to, I'm going to focus on, this is my first slide, that the month of Ramadan is the month of Quran. So we are, right now we are focusing on the first slide, which is the, which tells the first point over here, I want to focus on is fasting is a practical way of gratitude, right? In order to celebrate the magnificent gift of Quran that Allah gave us, fasting is practically celebrate the giving of that gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the act of fasting. And we learn from a hadith of Sahih Bukhari. The Prophet said to Hazrat Aisha radhiyallahu ta'ala anha, "O Aisha, Jibreel would come to me every year to recite the Quran, and this year he has asked me to recite it twice, and I have no explanation to it other than this is my last Ramadan." This hadith is from Bukhari and Muslim. So Prophet ﷺ, he had a premonition that it was his last Ramadan, and this premonition proved to be true. The point of hadith is that we learn two different sunnahs. The reading of Quran is a part of Ramadan, and second, the listening of Quran is a part of Ramadan. You recite and listen to Quran every day and night. Jibril would come and recite and listen back and forth. From this, scholars have extracted the concept of reciting Quran during Taraweeh. However, for reading with understanding, we need to spare some extra time. So we learn that every time when Ramadan comes, we have to almost relive the coming down of Quran. Allazi unzila fihi al-Quran. Another remarkable thing is the use of passive tense in the verse. With the you know what? Dear sisters, when the passive is used in the verse, the doer is not mentioned, and the object becomes the subject. This is to highlight that Quran has literally been sent down. But Quran did not just come for recital; it came with a message. So then we come to the next part of our slide, which is the role of Quran, right? This part tells us about the role of Quran, and the verse says, Hudal Nas, which means guidance for the people. It's not just a quality, it's an experience. It's something alive, sisters. Let's take an analogy to to understand this guidance. You want to go somewhere and you ask someone to give you directions. So that person is your guide. But that person is not your guidance because he is not available. If he is not available, you can take someone else as your guide. But the term guidance has a bigger perspective, right? Number one, Quran is the only guidance available. The ultimate guidance, like when it's the ultimate guidance. Like when the day comes, there's no need for a lamp or any other light. Secondly, Quran makes a separation between knowledge and guidance. Someone having a lot of information or knowledge does not necessarily mean he also has guidance. We have Google Maps, we have apps, right? We have all these things in our cell phone, but if they're not put to use, they're useless. Sometimes we confuse the increase in knowledge with the increase in guidance. There are people who have lots of knowledge, lots of information, but if they don't use it for guidance, and there are people who have very less knowledge, but they put it to use to seek guidance, and Allah guides them. For example, we learned from Ashab Kahf in Surah Kahf. They only knew the concept of Tawheed, dear sisters. We all know that, right? And they refused to worship any other entity other than their Rabb, and stood against the most impossible opposition of their time, and Allah guided them. So when Allah says Quran is guidance, what does it imply? A lot of times we say we are learning Quran, but we may be learning the tajweed, the grammar, the tafsir, the academics. But in the month of Ramazan, Allah says, I have sent this book that you can use at every turn of your life, like a counsel. Like you get a job call, you get an email, you get an offer, right? What do? You go to your friend, you talk to your friend, you text him, right? You take the counsel from him. That's the kind of role that Quran wants to play in your and mine life. Whenever I have to make a choice, I look in Allah's book and find out what Allah wants me to do. And the guidance actually comes to life. This is the meaning of guidance. Then Allah says this guidance is for all people. Practicing, non-practicing, religious, non-religious, educated or illiterate. Allah sent this book to guide the heart and mind of anyone who seeks its guidance, right? So the book, this book, it guarantees whatever guidance you will find in it, it's the better road for you. No matter how painful, how excruciating it looks. Allah says that every single human being is capable of doing what I'm asking you to do. If they were not, Allah would not have sent Quran for all humanity, but for a particular group. But He sent it for all humanity, no matter at what level of connection they are with Allah. Farther or closer, Allah has opened the invitation. Allah's priority is to benefit the people. So the way we deliver the message, since it's to benefit people, it should be fortified by kindness. Last but not the least, something very important to be noted is that Quran is the spiritual guide, Ramazan is the time guide. What happens in this month, sisters? The shayateen are chained. They are not just chained for Muslims, they are for everybody. Which means if you will share the message of Allah with someone, they will listen. For Muslims, their hearts will be more receptive, as fasting makes it softer. And for non-Muslims also, since shaitan is chained, their hearts will be closer, inshallah. This month is an opportunity to share the Quran with everyone. The divine presence, the special blessings are so powerful. If there was ever a time you would share this message with anyone, with your non-Muslim friends, this is the time, sisters. And ICNA sisters provide you with the best platform to play your role as Khaira Ummah and perform this task. Join us in our different departments and utilize your talents and skills. We have outreach, which is direct dawah. Then we have civic engagement, which is indirect dawah. We have social services, only to name just a few. In the last part of my slide, I'll just quickly go through my, how to develop a genuine relationship with Quran. Sisters, there's no hard and fast rule, right? There's no hard and fast rule for how much Quran should I recite and listen daily. But remember, it's not just limited to daily Taraweeh. Maximum amount is purely academic, but minimum amount, I would say, should be at least 3 verses with understanding and reflection, of course. This is the time to make a habit, to make a bond with Quran and carry it outside Ramadan. Just to mention, over here I would like to share this beautiful hadith. The most beloved deeds to Allah are those done regularly, even if they are small. This is agreed upon, right? So I'll mention here some study tools like Tafhimul Quran, attending Dore Quran. Sahih International is a very good guide for those for English readers. It's a very good guide. It gives you a simple translation of Quran. Then you can attend your community halqas, and there's Al Fajr and Al Duha Institute to help you understand Quran with its tafsir, with its explanation, to join it as a course, full course. Then Towards Understanding Quran is another good resource. These are just, to name few study tools. And then last but not the least, I would like to share this hadith. Recite the Quran, for on the day of resurrection, it comes as an intercessor for its companion. This is from Muslims. Wa akhiru dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.